It's Emily, and I am 6 days post-op. My last post was right before my surgery. Everything went pretty good. Um, my surgery was on Thursday, December 18th. Today is Wednesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. So when I got to the hospital, they took me back to get changed into my hospital robe, and they weighed me. They started my IV, and I answered the usual repeat questions. What's your name? What's your birthday? What surgery are you having done? And then, so they did those few things back there with just me, and then they allowed my husband and my best friend to come back into the room with me. And we just hung out there for a few minutes until the anesthesiologist came in, and he introduced himself to me. And we chatted for a minute, and I was scheduled for 2 p.m. surgery, and I guess they were running a little bit early because they went ahead and took me back about 1:30. And so I walked myself into the operating room, got myself onto the table, and you lay on your back in just your robe, and both of your arms are out to your sides, and they're on these separate little arm boards that is comfortable, but your arms are out to your sides. And then they put an oxygen mask over my face, and the anesthesiologist was there, and the nurses, and everybody was so sweet. And I was very calm, and so they were talking to me about, was I ready for Christmas, and had I done my shopping, and we were chatting about that, and that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in the in recovery, the stage 1 recovery, and I was in quite a bit of pain at that point. I remember trying to sit up, moving my arms around a lot, just being very uncomfortable in my chest and in my stomach. It was hurting pretty bad, and that was the one time that I had really bad pain. But they must have knocked me out pretty good at that point. I remember them telling me to try to relax, and then the next thing I know, I was waking up in my hospital room that I was going to spend the night in. And it was in that room that they prepared my morphine pump, which was just a little button that I could push about every 6 minutes as often as I needed it. And so that was absolutely wonderful. And so I remember my husband and my best friend being in that room, but I just remember and they were asking me, how do you feel? Are you uncomfortable? And I said, my chest hurts. Well, the reason my chest was hurting because I had a very, very large hernia that needed to be repaired. The doctor said I had a hole about that big, and he needed to make it much, much smaller, because if it was left the way it was, it would literally suck my new tummy sleeve up into that hernia in my esophagus. It would just get pulled up into it if it wasn't repaired. And from what I've been told from my doctor and some of the nurses and other patients that have also had a hernia as large as mine, is that most of the pain I have experienced is from that hernia. So I would just use the morphine a little bit at a time, and I was not ashamed to use that. I did not feel bad about having to use the pain medicine. Some people say they don't want to use pain medicine, but my thought is, I don't do drugs, and I don't ever take pain meds, so if I need them, I'm going to take them. So I didn't mind that at all. So I could start spacing them out a little bit more as time went on. I did have a catheter in when I woke up, and I was apparently emptying into that very well, because they had to empty that a lot, and it was probably because they had so many bags of fluids going, one after the other, to keep me well hydrated. And so I had to get up and walk. A couple of hours after surgery, they got me up and started walking me. The nurse would take a kind of a stretchy strap and wrap it around me just under my breast, where she could hold it in the back. So if I were to start to try to fall or get woozy or anything, she would have a hold of me. But I never did, and so I would just take my IV with me and walk the halls, and the walking was great. The walking felt so much better than I thought it would. Everybody was saying how important the walking is, and it really, really is. And so I've continued to walk since I've been home. And so my husband has been my hero. He has, in the beginning, I could only take very, very tiny sips of fluid. And so he would take my liquid protein and pour it into one of those little medicine cups, and I would just sip on that. It would take me about 6 to 8 sips to finish one of those tiny little measuring cups, and I would drink from those, and every time I would empty it, he would fill it up to keep me very well hydrated. And so I think I've done a pretty good job with that. After a couple of days, I started really trying to focus more on my protein and my hydration, but those first few days you just need to focus on staying hydrated. The gas pains I never got in my shoulder or anything like that, like a lot of people talk about. Most of mine was just in my chest and in my abdomen. And I would honestly just try to burp and pass gas as much as possible when I was up walking around, because that's how it gets out. So don't be ashamed of having to do that. It's just part of the process. So I slept through the night for the first time on my third night home from the hospital. The first and second nights I would just sleep intermittently with my pain medicine they sent me home with, some liquid Lortab, and I was taking that about 2 to 3 times a day for the first 2 days, and then by about the third or fourth day I was just taking 1 dose at night to help me sleep, and I am finally sleeping well. I slept in my recliner for the first few nights, and I've been in my bed now for the last 2 nights. So I find that I'm most comfortable on my left side. If things are feeling a little sore, I just lay on my left side and it really, really calms down. The Gas-X strips are really, really helpful. So I don't really notice a whole lot of difference between hot and cold liquids, but I do get spasms in my stomach, my new stomach, and my esophagus area where I had the hernia. So that has been really the only difficulty. I told my husband yesterday, I said, honestly, when I had my tonsillectomy 7 years ago, it was much, much harder than this surgery. This has really been a breeze. Other than being, having mild discomfort, kind of feeling like I've been sucker punched in the stomach a few times. Other than the hernia, this has just been a really great experience. It takes a while to get your energy back. I still get pretty worn down from being up and around, doing things around the house, and we went over to have a family get together last night, and by the time I was home, I was pretty tired, but as long as you sit down and take time to rest and follow the rules, don't lift anything over 20 pounds for a couple of weeks, and just try to sit down and rest as much as possible. Your body just had major surgery, and you're also going on very little calories, so it's only natural to be worn out. I'm going to be going back to work on January 5th, which would be 18 days off post-surgery. Again, my stats before I ever started this process, I was 259. I weighed 246 on the day I met my surgeon on October 15th. I weighed 244 when I started the pre-op diet on December 4th, and today I weigh 223. So I've lost a total of 36 pounds. So since pre-op, I weighed 229.5 on the day of surgery and 223 today. So 6.5 pounds in 6 days. So I'm not complaining about that at all. I know a lot of people come back from surgery and they actually weigh a little bit more than they did before they went in. And that's because of all the fluids and everything. But apparently I was peeing really good because I didn't have any weight gain after surgery. But just if you do, it's just part of the process. It doesn't mean you're not going to lose weight. It doesn't mean the sleeve isn't going to work for you. It's mathematically impossible not to lose weight if you're following the rules. So it will happen. It'll happen slower for some people. It'll happen quicker for others. So anyway, that's my post-op update. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Christmas season, and I will talk to you again soon.